Oh boy, I'm hungry. Let's take a look at the fridge. Alrighty. We got some almond milk, and we got some chicken, and we got some tortillas. Oh my goodness! It's a podcast! Hello, and welcome to The Social Distance, a podcast where honestly, there's just no rules, dude, because you broke them all. Thanks, pal. Thanks, buddy. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's totally fine. It is April 23rd, 2020, and I am your host, Israel Rodriguez. Hey you guys, it's Izz, and welcome back. I hope you guys had a marvelous weekend, and I hope there was at least, one or two smiles involved. Perhaps you finally got a chance to watch Tiger King on Netflix, and now you feel relevant and up to date. Or perhaps you didn't, just like myself. Either way, you are still valued, and your hair still looks fantastic. This weekend, I made some delicious spaghetti, and though that isn't the biggest culinary achievement, I'm still pretty darn happy about it. I tried to cook more with ground turkey as of recently because the red meat just isn't my thing, but I'm glad how it turned out. I'm glad it all turned out pretty well. I also did some walking around outside because I do believe it is important to expose yourself to some nature every so often. Though during these times, it is also important to be safe and aware when you partake in such activities. Don't worry, it's nothing too hard, just like making sure you're aware of the surfaces you touch and bring along some hand sanitizer if you do have any, and make sure you do bring your mask. Even if it's just like a bandana or some article of clothing, make sure you have something to cover your face with. Keeping your mouth and your nose covered is just like an extra precaution to take, not only to keep yourself safe, but also others safe as well. You never know who you're going to be walking by, and it's just a good idea to be prepared, Everyone is facing the social distancing in their own way, and sometimes it's very peculiar. So it's just very nice. It's a very nice thing to do to be empathetic of how others may feel, how comfortable others may feel between you and the proximity between you and them. Just during these times of fears and uncertainty, a little respect does go a long way. Okay, listeners, I don't know if it's just a side effect of this social distancing, but I have found that my rate of daydreaming has gone way up. I am finding myself
reminiscing.
Oh, reminiscing. Looking back at the best moments of yourself through various strife and even just inevitable life changes. But there is no built-in sadness within these things that we remember. We actually have the power to change how we feel as we look back. Reminiscing is an exercise of the mind, but only if you add the weight to it. Only if you choose to understand what it was that you needed to learn at that very moment. Only if you make the difficult choice to look outside of yourself, outside of the perspective that you may have had, that you may have been holding on to at the time. And it is essential to look back at where you have gone in order to know where you want to go. That is growing. That is to reminisce. And that is what we will be doing today. Also, I got myself a kalimba, here to make things just sound a little bit more cool and a little bit more dramatic. See? This thing is actually pretty neat. My roommate's bandmate had lent it to him, and I asked if I can actually borrow it for this week's episode, and I have no idea what I'm doing. But hey, that's okay. Being that this is an easygoing, pressure-free podcast, I figured that we just hang out and spend the day
reminiscing.
I found myself to be thinking about that lovely year that I spent living in Sacramento, and I think I'm actually going to share some of that with you guys today. I'm going to play lots of kalimba, and maybe show you guys some jams throughout. Then you can tell me about some of the times that you like to reflect on. I mean it, just hang out on the couch, I'll brew us some kava. So yeah, Sacramento. I remember it like it was just yesterday. So it's Thursday, January 2017. and it's sometime at the beginning of the month. I remember saying goodbye to my family, and it was a really bittersweet moment. I had spent the last 4 months in my hometown at my family's house just working up, saving up, in order to move to Sacramento. I had been living in San Diego before that, but to be quite honest, I was just getting tired of the constant hum of that city. I needed a change of scenery, and I do want to expand on that just a small bit. I think knowing when you need a change of scenery is an important thing and just one of the best things you can do for yourself. And I don't mean just daydreaming about living somewhere new, I mean actually going and taking the proper steps to leave the environment that you're in. I know it's a scary thing to do, and it becomes this uphill battle with your own brain. You do this to yourself. You begin to think of a million reasons to stay unhappy wherever it is that you currently are. I know I was. I was saying things like, it's so convenient to stay, I'm already established here, I'll miss my friends, what about work, what about housing, what about etc, etc. Trust me, the smallest of hopes are easy to crush when you unload just the weight of your own anxieties onto them. Be aware of that. The inclination for change, it can start subtly, but it does begin to grow. One of my favorite songwriters, Ben Gibbard from the band Death Cab for Cutie, he wonderfully sang, "If you feel just like a tourist in the place that you were born, then it's time to go." And it was time for me to go. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for me. There was a lot of work, there was a lot of saving up, and there was some uncomfortable situations that I had found myself going through in order to progress closer to this opportunity of leaving to just a whole nother new town. But you gotta really want it. And why Sacramento? Honestly, there was no special reason. It was just the first opportunity that rose, and I grabbed onto it like a determined rock climber. An old group of friends were moving into an apartment together in Sacramento, and they just needed an extra roommate. And they knew I was looking for a new place, so they hit me up. It was actually a wonderful series of events. Now, I'm gonna get a little real with you guys. Saying goodbye to my two youngest brothers, it was the hardest thing to do. Technically, this was my second time moving out of the house again, but we just really got used to each other's company. I love those guys more than the universe itself. I mean it. Seeing them cry as I hugged them goodbye and then as I got into my car to leave to Sacramento, that was one of the roughest things ever. I know it's not even that far away either in the grand scale of things. Like, it's probably just a 9-hour drive from my hometown, but we were, and we are, a close family. I honestly was hating myself for that moment. I felt like the world's worst oldest brother, and like as my watery eyes were looking back at them, I just began to think about all the important parts of their lives that I was going to be missing out on. Jacob, the middle brother, he was going to be a junior in high school, I think, and he was going through all sorts of different high school experiences that I wish, as an older brother, I was there to help guide him through. And Nathan, the youngest brother, he was only a few years away from becoming a teenager. And he was developing this unique, beautiful personality that I just wasn't going to be able to witness in real time. It was heartbreaking, but, I had already packed all my things. I was ready to go, so I told them that I loved them, and I headed out to Sacramento that morning. The thing is, amongst reflection, amongst
Reminiscing.
I have realized the importance of that moment. I know my brothers were sad to have me around a lot less, but what they got to see was their older brother going out and discovering something new, some new uncharted territory, at least for the Rodriguez family. What they got to see was this monumental moment of honesty from me, this moment of vulnerability. They knew that I loved them, but they knew that I was determined, and they also knew how afraid I was. Yet they saw me overcome that fear, and they saw me passionately pursue this opportunity of self-growth. They saw me embark in this complex journey of self-discovery. They saw me try. And now I see that that probably was like the better lessons that I could have ever taught my brothers. I might not have known this at that moment, but it is knowledge that I have now, and that really makes me smile. Okay, that's enough cheese for now. I drive to Sacramento, it's already the first day, and it's unlike anything I've ever experienced. Those first couple of weeks, actually, were just really intense as far as the weather goes. It was raining super hard, and if you are from Southern California, you'll understand exactly how unprepared I was for that much rain. Rain boots, umbrellas, gloves, jackets. I know I'm practically shouting my ignorance at you, but I had never had to use any of these items as often as I did up there in Sacramento. It was bizarre for me, and it felt like I was just constantly in this sad indie type music video because of all the clouds and all the rain and all the layers. Yeah. But I was enjoying the newness of it all. I had no job. just a couple of printed resumes and enough money to maybe last me maybe 2 months. And I mean maybe 2 months. Like maybe if I only eat one meal a day for 2 months. I definitely was on the hunt for a new job, and I was feeling refreshed and assured. For whatever reason, I think being in an unfamiliar town just gave me this confidence, like this fire. I had faith in myself and my ability to start up a new chapter in my life. I mean, I really had no other option. It was either adapt or live in a constant struggle, and I chose the former. You see, that's the thing though. Having that heat underneath my feet, I think is the expression. Just having my back against the wall, that really forced me to just give an honest, a hard effort into thriving in a new town. I think that some of us underestimate our instinct to adapt. I think some of us, myself included, we get so caught up within the millions of things that could go wrong when attempting something new, and sometimes that fear just stops us dead in our tracks. But don't sell yourself short. I do believe that everyone is tougher than they may think, and I do believe that humans just have this extraordinary ability to adapt, especially when faced with external pressure, okay? We are strong, don't you ever forget. So I recall some really weird interviews during those first couple of weeks when I was doing the job search. Now remember, I do have a limit for my funds, and I was really desperate for some income. I have to tell this story though about this drive-in movie theater that I had gotten an interview at, that I applied and got an interview. First of all, going to a drive-in in the middle of a cloudy day was just an eerie experience. You got two blank, huge screens, and there's just this huge abandoned space with only one sole building in the middle of it all. It was just kind of weird. I felt like I was on an online Call of Duty map, and I was the only player in the game. But when I got in there, there were a few people waiting to get their turn at the interview. I remember trying to talk to some of these folks, and they were kind of cold in their responses. Like, I don't mean they were mean, but they just kind of sounded like robots that were running out of batteries. It definitely felt odd, but I needed a job, right? Then I got called up into the main office to start my interview. So I walk into this small office and there was three people in there, okay? So there was some lady that we're just going to call Linda for the sake of the story. Then there was some stone-faced older gentleman with like gray facial hair, and he was sitting behind a desk, and he was only referred to as the owner. And behind him was what I assume was his son, who was probably like around 7 to 10 years old. I'm actually not too sure. And then there was me. So it was just the four of us cramped into this small office, and I sit down in front of the owner's desk, but it was Linda who was talking to me. She was doing the talking the whole time, and she's sitting to my right. So I introduce myself to the owner first, I shake his hand, and he actually said not one word to me. And I also acknowledged the kid, and I said hello to the kid, and not even the kid was saying anything back to me. He just kept on staring at me like I was some weird, mysterious creature that they brought from the outside. It Yeah, and Linda, she's asking me all these questions, and I have absolutely no idea who I'm supposed to be like facing, who I'm supposed to be focusing on. Is it Linda? Is it the owner? And then all three people were just staring at me the whole time. And you want to know something? The little kid that was behind the owner, he was actually like holding on to an iPad. He was using an iPad or some sort of tablet. And guess what? He was watching cartoons out loud during my interview. all I could hear in the background was just Dora the Explorer, and she was telling me what a good job I was doing for scaring away a Swiper the Fox. It was odd, and then Linda was acting like all of this was just perfectly normal and professional. I definitely felt awkward, like I was in some episode of The Office, or like I was on one of those hidden camera shows that people get put in. It's like a weird situation, and others just laugh at the reactions. That's how I felt like. The vibe was definitely off, though I was desperate for some income. Still, though, I knew I could do better. So even when I got a call back the next afternoon, I let it go straight to voicemail, and I just kept on searching. I gotta say, though, looking back at this interview and just other similar odd, uncomfortable times, I can't help but to find it all so hilarious and actually fun to tell. Trust me, at the time, I was feeling worried and I was discouraged. And I knew that interview wasn't even the weirdest thing that I had faced in my life, but I still felt like that was going to be all I had to look forward to, feeling uncertain and uncomfortable all the time. But I was wrong. And it's great to look back and see how wrong I actually was. Just stick with it. because no moments last forever. And that's the beauty of
Reminiscing.
what ends up happening is I get a call from one of the Starbucks nearby, and a few days later, I get an interview, and a few days after that, I get a job. So prior to moving here, while living in El Centro for a little bit, I was working for the county at a behavioral health facility. I was taking care of some people, monitoring them, and they would have all sorts of mental health problems. That definitely was an experience within itself, and that's another podcast. Before that, in San Diego, I was working at a Jamba Juice. So I had no experience with coffee, but I did have experience in a couple other places, and I did feel like this was going to be a fun place to work at and an easy environment to adapt to. I won't dive too deep into my opinions at working at a Starbucks, but I will say this. When I was starting, that is when I met some of the most wonderful people, including some coworkers. I had a coworker named Luisa who would actually share all these fancy beers with me that she would bring from her hometown of Santa Rosa. I had a friend named Livy who actually invited me to go with her and her boyfriend and a group of friends to go see Jello Biafra. That's right, Jello Biafra. That is the lead singer of one of my favorite bands, the Dead Kennedys. He was just playing at some local cafe there in Sacramento. I made a good friend named Megan who would show me more and more around town, and she was just so welcoming. I had a coworker whose name was Anna, and she wasn't afraid to talk to me and to get to know me. She was just a very caring and smart person. Even my boss, the lady who hired me, her name is Stephanie, she was so sweet to me and so encouraging. She was so proud of all the things that I was getting myself into. She was a cool person. I also met one dude who is just now one of my best friends of all time, and his name is
Tyler.
I miss that guy so much, and I actually got to give him a call just to see how he's doing. You know, it's been a while since I last spoke with him. Tyler was, and he is, just such a down-to-earth guy. One of the first things I told him was that he had chill vibes, and he actually reminded me of some of the friends that I hung out with down in San Diego. The dude makes his own beef jerky. I mean, that's pretty cool. And from February to around May, I was working at Starbucks on a street called Zinfandel, which is actually a really cool street name, by the way. I was making new friends, doing new things, and discovering new places. I am a big fan of beer, and Sacramento also has a huge beer scene. So I was going to all these different breweries and talking to all these different people there, and just being open about who I was and where I came from, and for the most part, people were so receptive. The brewery that I frequented the most was the one that was closest to my house, and it was called the American River Brewing Company. It's closed down now, but that place holds some fond memories. I was adapting, I was learning, and I was meeting strangers along the way who were helping me. Whether they were aware or not, they were helping me discover new cultures and new points of views. They were helping me on my search to become a more refined version of myself, and I am very grateful for just everyone I got to interact with, even if it was just for a short time over a beer at the American River Brewery. I was also making some very experimental music from samples that I would take from old records I would buy from the thrift stores around town. I was using a moniker, and the moniker was Scoots the Ghost. Scoots being a short version of my nickname, Scooter, and adding the words the ghost for reasons that were just beyond my consciousness. Maybe I felt like I was some lost ghost, just drifting. But honestly, who knows? But here's a jam from that project. I'm telling you, I was experimenting with sound and just trying all sorts of new things. This was off a small album that I released while I was living in Sacramento, and I titled it, Thank You for Listening to Music With Me. And this song is called Red and White Wine. I hope you enjoy it. Peculiar stuff, huh? I know it's not for everyone, but really, nothing ever is. This album holds a special place in my heart because it just reminds me of all the newness I was facing. The album itself was just one big experiment, and at the time, my life felt like it was just one big experiment, so, it worked out. In June, I got transferred to a new Starbucks that was actually just about to open, and thanks to the unpredictable hands of fate, my homeboy Tyler was also transferring with me to that new store. I remember going to that new store just days before it was actually opening and setting it up. All the staff came in and helped set it up. We all got to meet each other, we all got to mingle amongst each other. We were just a bunch of future coworkers. There was soda, there was pizza, it was actually pretty nice. The group that I got put into that day was in charge of building the shelves that actually went into the back room, and I found it easy and fun to interact with these new, delightful faces. I worked at that Starbucks from then until I left Sacramento, which was at the end of that very year. Although the new store was so busy and very, very stressful at times, I just had the luxury of working with and just getting close to so many new and amazing people. There was Bryce and Kara and Alex and Paige and Elijah and Lena and Jasmine and Trisha and Abby and Lauren and Sierra, so many others. I was making incredible connections left and right. I was surrounded by so much love. I even became good friends with some of the customers. We had it was Yuli and Emmy who were these regulars that would come in every so often, and they would just work on some school stuff. Eventually, we would talk more, and then we began to hang out outside of work. It was just all pure serendipity. It was all serendipity. That's exactly what it was. Honestly, listeners, there are just so many brilliant souls out there that are worth taking the time to get to know. These people who were once strangers just a few months ago, they quickly became like family in such a short amount of time. Kara and her family, they actually let me spend Thanksgiving with them, and that is a memory that I am so grateful to have. Her father, who was just this super cool guy, his name was Kirk, and we just referred to him as the captain because he was so rad. He was so fun to hang around, and he was excited to have me there. I even had Brussels sprouts for the first time that night, and I loved them. It was just so different for me. I also had another incredible friend, and her name was Solchi, and she was like the sister that I'd never had. I don't know, that may seem like a bit dramatic, but this person actually invited me to spend Christmas with her and her family, and even the family treated me like I was one of their own. I'm telling you, there was just all sorts of good vibes. And I am a firm believer that if you are receptive to meeting such great people, and if you just put that energy out there and you take the time to get to know them and all the intricacies that they come with, well, you're going to be meeting a lot of great people. Oh, the joys and the wonders of
Reminiscing.
One of the things that I have to talk about regarding Sacramento was just all the nature that it exposed me to. I felt like there was just parks everywhere, even in the busy, touristy downtown areas of the city. You couldn't walk 10 minutes without finding yourself standing or surrounded by some healthy green mass of trees and grass. It was just so peaceful. I think it does something to your brain, you know? I think it like calms the mind, or at least that's what I remember from hanging out at all those neat little parks. It was just this sense of wholeness, the sense of being one with the world around me, and choosing to immerse myself in it rather than just enjoying it from the windows of my apartment complex. I would go to the light rail station near my place and just buy an all-day ticket and get lost in Midtown or some of the other fun areas around there. I would find myself in new breweries or on perfectly placed benches that provided the most simple yet the most stunning of views, and I would also bring along a sketchbook with me. In fact, it was actually around April, during my time in Sacramento, that I decided to get more involved with visual art. I wanted to learn how to paint. I wanted to learn how to draw. Prior to this time in my life, I would only scribble out some lonely doodle on the back of some random paper that I had with me at the moment, and I just would think nothing more of it. But I was expanding my creative side by trying to actively commit to learning a new creative skill. I would occasionally play some bass here and there, but I eventually found myself painting and drawing more and more, and I was using that as a creative outlet during like the later half of my time in Sacramento. I wasn't too proud of the stuff that I was making when I was first starting out, but it's all about practice and consistency. By no means am I saying that I'm like way good at drawing now, but since then, I definitely have gotten more comfortable with drawing, and I feel like I've developed my own style of creating visual art. And though it does have some homages to other artists that influenced me, I do feel like it's a mix of my own ideas and my personality. You see, it was this well timed, perfectly placed combination of encouragement, scenery, and people that Sacramento had provided for me. And those were the nutrients that I needed in the soil of life that my personality was stemming from. I I felt nourished, I felt tall, I felt so alive. And when I find myself
Reminiscing.
all those emotions, they come back to me and they get me excited for the future, for the moment that I get to look back at this current day and I get to understand just the full spectrum of lessons and values of the times that I'm going through right now. There is both a beauty and an irony to the cyclical nature of life itself. Oh, and the rivers. Oof, the rivers, I'm telling you. So at one point, there was up in Sacramento, my friends took me to a river for the first time, my first river, and I instantly fell in love. I had been to beaches before, and I'm not the biggest fan of that, so I just assumed that all experiences near large bodies of water, they were all the same. But I was wrong, of course, and I couldn't have been happier about it. The environment and the ecosystem of a river is just, it's so fascinating, it's so colorful, and it just comes with a sense of peacefulness that was impossible for me to feel at a beach. The waves at a river are just the perfect volume, the air is just the perfect freshness, and when you have good company, it's just the perfect setting. And if you were listening closely, you would just hear all its sounds, as if the river itself was this grand conductor of a large band, and the water was the drums, and the wind was the flute section, and the insects were playing clarinets, and the leaves of the trees were in fact a trumpet section, and together they just played a performance that can only be truly appreciated by taking the opportunity to see these incredible musicians live. It is impossible for me to begin to recreate such a beautiful piece of music, but as a break from hearing me talk so much, here is a new jam from a new album that I'm actually in the process of making. This is going to be the first project from Scoots the Ghost that I have released since my time up there in Sacramento, and well, you can definitely hear the influence that it had on me. I figured this was just the best way to transition out of all of this
Reminiscing.
that we have been doing. Don't you agree? I hope you guys enjoy it. It doesn't have a name yet, but I will let you know when it does. and I hope you enjoyed it. Those times were like gold to me, and I appreciate you guys just listening to me talk about them. And you want to know what the most precious thing to me is? It's what I got to keep after this time of my life ended. I still keep in contact with many of those amazing people, and I still have all these lessons that I learned about myself and my interactions with others. I got this whole repertoire of new music that was inspired by my time there that I'll get to carry with me for the rest of my life. I got all these beautiful memories to look back. But as I said in the beginning of this podcast, we ultimately do get to choose what we take away from these times that we no longer have. And if you find yourself feeling nostalgic and sad about something that you left in the past, that's perfectly normal and perfectly okay. But just make sure that you are making an effort to really reflect on those times and that you are able to take something beneficial from all this
Reminiscing.
The COVID quarantine might take your mind back to more peaceful times before all this wackiness started, but remember all the lessons you have worked hard to learn up until this very moment right here. And then you can flash a quick smile to yourself at the very fact that this moment too will become one you look back at. And you will have the similar opportunity of just gaining so much from that experience. So much from an experience just like the one we are going through right now. Anyway, now I want to talk about this gnarly scab jar that I have right here Wait a minute, what is that? Oh, it's my doorbell. One moment, listeners. Just let me grab this. Well. Listeners, it seems like I got a package. Well, you know what? I'm actually going to open it right here, right now. And just in the small chance that this actually is just some gimmick that lasts for the rest of the podcast, I'm going to say goodbye right now. And I'm just going to say, again, thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys being here. Just make sure you subscribe. Make sure you listen to all the other content that we got here up on Griffin Radio. And, well, just make sure you're safe out there. Please, just do that for me. Anyways, let's take a look. What's inside this package? All right, let's take a look. Oh, it's something big for sure. Okay, hold on 1 second. Oh my gosh, you guys. It's a gift. It's actually a gift for me. Can you guess? Can you guess what it is? Wow, really? On your first try? That was pretty good, dude. Well, you're right.
It sounds.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Izz. And, I just thought I'd share some sounds with you. Like a gift. You know, why don't we give each other more sounds? For Christmas. Be like, hey, happy birthday. Here's a sound. I thought of you. I'm gonna give you this sound. It's the sound of a park. I know you like those. You can add it to your collection. Or something. It's Saturday, and I walked on over to the park just to do some drawing. And there's people walking their dog. It might sound close, but I think the mic just picks up really well. It seems like they're having fun. So that's cool. Oh no. I hope they're not saying anything too juicy for this podcast. I gotta keep it PG. PG-13 at at most. But I try to just keep it PG. Just to be on the safe side. Anyways, yeah, I just came to the park to do a little bit of drawing. You know, it's good to go outside and just remind yourself that there is still a world to hang out in. I'm not planning to stay too long, just want to get out of the house. It was a long week. But that's okay. And yesterday I actually got some new tea. I got some peach oolong and Asian pear green tea and that one more. Oh, a chai. I got a chai tea too. Some sort of chai tea. So far I've only tried the peach oolong and it was pretty tasty. I'm glad I picked that one up. I also got, before embarking on my little mini walk, my mini journey, I got some cashews from Rite Aid. So I got those right here. I get peckish sometimes. Oh, my papers. I'm hoping this doesn't pick up too much wind because, you know, that no one likes hearing a lot of wind. But if it does, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's so cool that we have the technology now to just capture noises like this. So why not use them? Use your powers for good. Oh man, there's 2 pugs. Oh, there's a family with like just a bunch of dogs. But they got 2 pugs and they are so rambunctious. I have a huge soft spot for pugs. I've only had pugs in my house actually. I have 2 dogs. Not with me, not living with me. I live in my own apartment now, but back in my family's home, we have 2 dogs, and it's Sassy and Bowser. And they're both pugs. And they are both the sweetest things. Well, Sassy's actually kind of mean. She's the older one, and she's deaf now. But that's not why I'm laughing. I'm laughing because she's angry sometimes. But she's only kind of mean to Bowser, the other pug. To everyone, she just loves people and she loves being pet. But when she's hanging out with Bowser, she like barks at him. Like, hey, just to roughen him up a little bit sometimes. It's kind of funny to watch. I mean, they're pals, but Sassy just likes to remind Bowser that she's older. She's got more wisdom, kid. Don't take it personal. So yeah, I just thought I'd walk to the park, and I have the means to take you with me, and just thought that I should. Hopefully it sounds good. I haven't had this little device for long, but hopefully it sounds good. And, you can rest assured that it'll sound better the more I handle it, the more I get to know it. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the sound. This is the best way I can wrap up the sound, in a little cute little gift box and give to you. I think this is the best way I can do it. Best way I can afford to do it. So yeah, I was working on this doodle here. Maybe I'll share this doodle online or something. I hope the sprinklers don't come on. I think I've been sitting here before and then have the sprinklers turn on in the past. I think that's happened. I'm not quite certain. I like parks a lot, and I've definitely been hit by sprinklers in parks a lot, so sometimes I lose track. Up in Sacramento, there were so many parks. Oof, it was so beautiful up there. And it was just super green. I felt like there was more trees over there, so I think that just made the air like a little bit more clear, a little bit more cleaner. Maybe that was just me. I've been in Southern California my whole life, so maybe I have some weird bias against it, but no matter. Sacramento was very beautiful. I loved hanging out there, or living there, but being outside in Sacramento. But that's okay, because I'm outside in San Diego, and in a way they're kind of the same, thing. We're both outside. They're both outside places, San Diego and Sacramento. I'm in the same outside space that I would be here in San Diego than I would be over there in Sacramento. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm trying to make it sound sensical, but it's kind of cold. And I'm just enjoying the day, so if it doesn't make sense, too bad. You choose how you want to enjoy your Saturday. I like to enjoy my Saturdays not making sense, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I was working on this doodle here. It's just a bunch of lines. It's nothing specific. Kind of looks like a seahorse, but like a demonic seahorse. But it's also just a bunch of lines, so I don't know. Maybe I got something against seahorses. Actually, I remember when I would play Pokemon, there was on the Game Boy Color, or on the Game Boy Advance, I think. No, I think it was the Game Boy Color. You had to fight some gym leader that had a hard Pokemon that was like a seahorse. I think it was a Kingdra or something like that. And it was a hard Pokemon. At least, at the time when I was younger, it was hard to fight it. So maybe that's where I'm channeling this demon seahorse energy from. But yeah, maybe I'll bring you guys on walks more often. It'll be good for me because I can make it a regular thing to give to you. And if you like it, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too. I like it, so it's a win. It's all these cool sounds I get to share. Got my pen here. It's a Micron. My paper. It's some thick paper. Got my cashews. I brought my book with me. I was gonna plan to read, but I ended up drawing instead. Have everything in the little Adidas bag here. If you personally know me, you've more than likely have seen me with my Adidas bag. I kind of take it with me everywhere. You just can never be too prepared to capture things and then share them. Or to have things that are already captured and shared with you, like this book. So, it's good to have this stuff. Well, I feel like I can hang out here with you guys all day, but I do think if, oh goodness. I don't know. Someone's talking, but we don't want to capture too much of their conversation. Yeah, I think I'm just going to let you guys go. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. That was pretty nice. If you like this, maybe we can go on more walks together. Pretend like we're hanging out in this time that we can't really hang out. Alrighty, well, you guys have a good one. Talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to Griffin Radio. We know these are weird times, but don't worry, we got you covered with tons of news and content delivered to you safely from all of us here at Griffin Radio. And just a reminder to stay home as much as you can, and to avoid touching your face and unnecessary surfaces, and to wash your hands often with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds. Simple as that. Hey, we'll get through this. Thank you for listening to Griffin Radio.